Hello, happy Wednesday. This is Wednesday Coffee with me, Pastor Justin.
And Pastor Austin.
Good morning, how are
Good morning.
you?
I'm well. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. I like your hat.
Thank you. It's one of my
Can y'all read
favorites.
that? Tell them what it says or show them there.
These are the good old days.
I love that.
Because every day's got to be a good old day.
Amen, amen. You have a new office over
I
here.
do, yeah.
Yeah?
They got a short tour last week in our
Oh, you
Wednesday
did?
morning
Okay,
video.
good.
Yeah.
I missed that.
It was still quite a wreck then, and
Okay.
it's not much better now. But.
Tell people what your new title is here.
So I am shifting my role from youth ministry to minister of outreach and spiritual care. I'm really excited to kind of step into the spiritual care ministries of this church, working with the elders and different teams, and spending more time with y'all, hopefully. And I look forward to getting to know folks on a deeper level.
Awesome. We're grateful for you and your
I'm
ministry.
grateful to be here.
Yeah. We 2 weeks ago, we started a conversation, and we talked longer than I think we thought we were going to.
Always.
Yeah. And we were talking about digging in for a few weeks on the topic of evangelism, what that means, what that looks like for us in a changing world. And then we started by, talking about some trends, right? The fact that the church, as we know it in the United States, has been declining numerically, at least, if not in other ways, over the past couple of decades, and wrestling with some of the causes of that, some of the reasons why. And I said that I had 4 theories, and they're not just mine. I mean, this didn't come out of my head, right? These are theories that have been much discussed by many scholars and pastors, and so I think we covered the first 2 of those. I don't know if we covered them comprehensively or not, but we talked
Almost
about the
certainly
first
not.
2. We talked about increasing institutionalization and politicization in the church, and the fact that some people, and particularly younger people, have been pushing back against that might be a cause of decline. We talked about a rapid change in society. We live in a world that is, things are changing so quickly right now in this world, maybe unprecedentedly so, and that maybe in many ways the church hasn't kept up, hasn't stayed relevant in order to sort of continue to meet people at their point of need as they deal with this changing world that they live in, right?
Yep.
So we talked about those. 2 more theories, and these are maybe, I don't know if they're quite as heavy or complex as those first 2. Maybe the first one feels kind of obvious, but I still think it's worth talking about. So, and the question I'm going to ask you is, with each of these, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Right? So, theory 3, attention fragmentation. What do we mean by that? The theory is that there are, quite simply, a lot more things to capture people's attention and imagination. We have probably a lot more people have much greater access to more information than ever before in human history. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
¿Por qué no los dos?
Ah,
Oh, man.
su español está mejorando. I think it's getting a little better. You're working on this.
Poquito.
Poquito. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think, and before we jump into that, I think that also, along with those kind of theories of attention fragmentation, just because there's so much dividing us, there's also kind of those theories of development and what, technology and access to that information is doing to our brains as we develop. And so our younger folks, or even kids coming up, their brains literally wired differently than ours. And so how is the church responding to that too, I think, is a question kind of in that sphere. But yeah, I mean, like, it's good that we have access to information, I think, right? Being able to share community with folks that we could 100 years ago not even know existed, right? There's certainly beauty in being connected in those ways, and
my favorite word. My favorite word.
And man, that's a lot of information, a lot of traumatic information a lot of times. It's a lot of heavy weight to carry. And I think, at least where my mind goes a lot of time, is kind of this existential dread, right? There's so much going on. Where do I, in my small corner of the world, do anything about any of it, right? And maybe that is where the church, local churches specifically, have kind of a voice, right? And maybe can start stepping up and stepping forward and affecting some change. But I think that again, the church has to be willing to kind of step up and respond to some of these big changes in our society.
Yeah. I would affirm the first thing that you said. I took a class long ago, but professor, and this was at the time, I think, focused primarily we didn't have social media and stuff yet at the time. It was just, it was talking about television even, and the impact.
Just a screen.
The impact that television has had in the 20th century on the formation of the human mind and the way that it works. You talk about being rewired. A couple hundred years ago, when people, the way that media was consumed was you would read things and tape and maybe long form things, and therefore the mind learned to sort of track through an argument, right? And to kind of move and
slowly, methodically
work through something, right?
Yeah.
And that by the time we reach the turn of the millennium, everybody's watching television, and the average TV shot was 2.5 seconds. So they'd show you something for 2.5 seconds, and then show you something else for 2.5 seconds. And the claim was that, you start doing that from a young age, and your mind learns how to work in 2.5 second bursts. And it got increasingly difficult for people to then, hold the thread of something and process something through to its conclusion. Maybe even more so with social media, right? And just the doom scrolling.
Oh my goodness, to speak to kind of how even television technology screens have come, I don't know the numbers on it, but I would probably say that 2.5 second interval has gone down quite a bit, right? Whether it's through the swiping or even just the way videos are made, right? So to capture those kids' attention, it's really quick, fast-paced, switching videos, switching things that are happening, scenes.
Rewires our brain.
And it literally rewires. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so then, so there's all this information out there. It's coming at us much more rapidly than it used to. What do we do? What is the church's responsibility? How can we help in the face of this onslaught of rapid information? Because I agree with you. I think there's something to be said for some value in access. At least, right? People who, decades, centuries ago, just wouldn't have known a lot of what was going on out there. There's a good thing in being aware, right?
Absolutely.
And then what?
Right. Yeah. And then what's next? There's a good thing about being aware, and even the ways that all of that technology is meant, medical care could be brought to people that would have never gotten it or whatever. There's so many good things, and it makes it a difficult, especially with the ways churches kind of traditionally functioned, longer services with really focused and intense times that may be harder for folks these days. I think that the first question, at least where my mind goes, is that all of what we're talking about, we started with this idea, everything's very fast paced, right? Everything's very in your face and always going. And maybe we kind of take on that need to be fast paced, that need to be overly productive all of the time. I've got to be doing. And I think church maybe is the unique voice in our society that says, stop doing.
Hold up.
And just be.
Slow down.
And there's some real, I think, meaning and hope in that. In a world that is moving 1 million miles a second, the church is that counter voice that says it's okay to stop and stop doom scrolling and to just be in this moment. And the church, I think, has to wrestle with those questions of what those moments look like for people whose brains are wired differently now, right? But I do think that the church has a voice in challenging people to slow down, and also has a challenge itself to kind of come alongside these folks in different ways.
Okay, so Sabbath, creating space, breath, right? Creating space for the Spirit to move, taking some deep breaths together. These are important things. You challenged us in worship a couple weeks ago at 9:00, actually, to slow down a little bit and try things a little bit differently. We have groups here, by the way. If you're watching this and you're hungry for ways to breathe and slow down, we have prayer groups. We have groups that are very intentional about sitting and holding space together. So, reach out, let us know. We can help connect you with those. Absolutely. There's another word that's occurring to me, which is the word discernment. Maybe in the face, maybe access to information is a good thing, but maybe with more information, there's a greater premium on discernment, right? How we receive and manage and handle all of that information, because probably a higher percentage of it is junk.
Yeah,
right?
Almost certainly.
Used to be. So maybe those two things are connected too. Maybe creating that space, slowing down, spending time with Scripture, spending time in prayer, spending time in dialogue, with other people, can also help us to kind of deepen our sense of discernment around what's helpful, what's useful, and what's junk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you mentioned dialogue with other people, right? This doesn't happen outside of community. We mentioned certainly social media and technology is creating communities in this world in ways that have never happened before, in really beautiful ways, right? And I think it's created space for individuals to just be siloed as individuals. And so the church, again, right, in this question of how we are discerning, maybe the church says, well, let's discern together because I think we all have some level of discernment when we're scrolling through videos and we get real upset with something that we just scrolled past and we want to talk about it, but we don't have anybody to talk it with, so we stew around this in ourselves, and then maybe we bring some of that stew somewhere else and unload it, offload it, right? But maybe the church's voice says, turn that outward and have conversation with people that love you and care about you about it. Don't be siloed to just experiencing all of that information on your own.
And just let it cook your brain.
Right.
Yeah. All right, good. And also a good segue, I think, to the fourth theory here, okay? The fourth theory is that church is maybe less socially necessary for many people in American society than it used to be. Sure. That there's been a decline in what you might call social obligation around being part of church.
Yep.
Okay. If you lived in a town like Granbury 100 years ago and you wanted to have community, you had to go to church.
Church is it.
Right? Church is it. Church is all there was. And now there are 100 other opportunities to engage in community. You go to the YMCA and play pickleball, and that's a community.
Absolutely.
I mean, those people, they do life together, hang out, play pickleball, and go to have lunch. And okay, so is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing, right? And I think it's a growing edge for the church, right? Communities around us. Oh, how terrible is that? People getting together and talking and sharing life. Imagine if the church, instead of asking, how do we grow ourselves? And it sounds like a very egotistical question, right? The church saying, all these other communities are stealing our people. Right? That's kind of the sense that it gives me. But imagine if our question was, how can we support those communities and let people know that we want them to be together, that we value their time together, that we think whether they're talking about God or not in those communities, that we think that God is present and the Spirit is present there.
Yeah.
And that if they want to explore that, then they can come and sit with us and talk about that,
Yeah.
or share in that life with us.
Yeah. Yeah, we often hear, and I don't want to sound too critical, but I often have heard the question, and I've probably asked many times the question, how do we get those people, or how do we get more people to come here?
Right.
Right? As if getting people to come to this building is what it means to share the good news of Jesus, right? And to to take that good news to the ends of the earth. I don't remember Jesus saying, hey, we got to get everybody to come to, come to Jerusalem or to come to Galilee, right? And I certainly Paul. Paul's idea wasn't, we need to go get the Romans and the Ephesians and
start bringing them into
Thessalonians and get them to come to Israel
right
here so we can. They went out, right? And so I'm increasingly interested in the question, and I think this is kind of where you're going. How do we take church out there? How do we take the love of God that we've experienced in Jesus out into those communities? And maybe when we do that, we will build relationships that in some cases will cause people to choose to come
where
here.
those invitations happen.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But maybe some of the people won't ever come here. And can that be okay?
Can we be okay with that?
Can we do church out there with them, whether they ever come here or not?
Yeah.
It's a shift. I mean, it's...
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I love it when people come here. I'm not trying to tell anybody not to come.
Totally, yeah. And to be clear, I believe that we have something really special here, and that when people do come here, they feel that and experience that. And I think that's a big part of who you are, church, and offering that to people. But I think that is a step 3 or 4 in the process, and that you're right. It's about going out and meeting people and seeing people where they are, and not having any kind of game plan for shiftily getting them into the doors of the church so that we can put our claws in them. No, it's just about showing up with them and affirming that God is present in their life. Yeah.
Spirit isn't stuck in our building.
No, oh God.
I think the Spirit's here, and we feel it in beautiful ways.
Yes.
But the Spirit isn't stuck here.
No.
Okay. All right. Good stuff.
Yeah.
4 theories. There are others.
What?
Right? But as a couple of closing words here, and then we'll close for today and pick up again next week. Can we do 2 weeks in a row? Are we going to be in the same place 2 weeks in a row?
It's August now.
So here's I don't want to dig into this. I want to leave people with a couple of thoughts today, okay? And then we'll pick up and continue with this next week. So here we are for those reasons and others. We are in a place right now, in a time and place where, for whatever reason, numerical participation in Christian church life in the United States is declining right now. And that is true in almost all versions of Christendom. We talked about just maybe one right now where the number is net positive, but barely.
Yeah.
Okay. So first thing I want to say, and we'll talk about this next time, this is not the first time this has happened. Okay. We have to be students of history, right? And recognize that people thought the Christian church in the United States was dying in the 1920s and the 1870s and the 1790s. And you can go back through history and find seasons over the past 2,000 years where it felt like that was happening even more so, okay? And not just here, but around the world. There have been many of these seasons. I tend to associate them with God's breathing in and breathing out, because in every case, those seasons have been followed by seasons of new life. And revival is a word that we can use, and maybe that has some associations, but new life in the church and in the Spirit, growth. Okay, so we'll talk about that. And here's the second claim, and this is what I want you to think about this week, okay? This is the claim. Death. So right now, people say, the church is dying, the church is dying. Well, maybe the church as we know it is dying in some ways.
Yeah.
Okay? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good question, Pastor.
I want to claim, and this will be maybe core topic next week, that as Christians, death is one of the greatest assets that we have.
Absolutely.
Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. Jesus chose death, and out of death came new life. And so I'm curious what needs to die, and what new life that death could bring in the next 10, 20, 50 years in the life of the church.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. Think about that, pray about that, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.